episode of The Study Break. This is my first solo episode, so it's literally just me in here. It's kind of haunting because there's no one here today, and it's a Sunday. The entire hallway is pitch black, and it's just me. So I have literally just a camera and the studio today. I got all of this set up myself. I'm very proud of myself. It was very hard work with my bare hands. I got the boards up and I set up all the plants and I moved the couch because there was 2 couches here, and that was a pain. And I probably hurt myself doing it in the process, but it worked out. I set up pretty well, I'd say so. But if you can't tell by today's episode title, we are going to dive into how to figure out how to pick a major in college, picking the right one for you, and getting into all the details about the story of how I picked mine and all the crazy things that happened along the way to where I am now. So I feel like there's this pressure that I really want to touch on in this episode, that as a freshman that I definitely felt going into college. Kind of, you're freshly graduated high school, you're 18, going into college, you're kind of excited to get the college experience, you're kind of unsure of what you want to study, but you also still have like an idea of what you are interested in. At 18, I came into college as a marketing major, which it seemed straightforward. It seemed like a good career choice, like it would lead to a good job, and I thought it was going to be a good choice and something that I would like, which I did. It had some challenges, which I'll get into, but I think at the time I really thought it was going to be a good major at the time, but something felt like it was missing. As such a creative person and someone who gets excited to be creative in any type of way, whether it's like producing something, if it's artwork or editing a video or something like that. I need that creative outlet. And when I came into my freshman year, I don't think I realized that right away. And it took me a good whole semester to figure that out, and I'm glad it happened the way it did, but we're definitely gonna get into the nitty-gritty of that, because that was a crazy story. For freshman year, and not including your like freshman year electives that you kind of have to take, the courses I was taking freshman year, specifically for my marketing major, was not fun in my eyes or really exciting for me. I was taking Algebra 101 and a technology class, other electives that were not really exciting for me in terms of my creativity. And I'll get into algebra because that comes up later on in my story. But as the semester went on, I started really questioning if my marketing major was something that I genuinely was interested in, if I was going to be happy later on in the next 3 years, if as a senior, if I was still a marketing major, what would that look like? And that was when I really started to question, like, if I made the right decision as an incoming freshman. And I remember in my technology class, we had this presentation. It was about how the company Apple became successful and their success story, how they grew as a company, and like the little things that they did. I'm not really sure what the specifics of the presentation were, but I remember, I think my first kind of sign that I really was missing something creatively was I remember working on the presentation and specifically on the cover slide, and I was designing it as a Mac computer, like with the Apple logo. And it came out really, really cool. I'm very proud of myself for doing that, but I was so fixated on, designing the presentation and making it look nice and taking hours upon hours of just being focused on designing how it looked rather than the specifics of the presentation. I think my kind of thought process in how I make presentations is I go straight to the design process of how I want it to look, and then I go into the details of what I want to say and what's going to be on the slides and the text and everything. In my brain, I just think it works that way where I go straight to the design process. I believe my professor at the time had said how good of a graphic designer I was, that the cover slide looked so great and it was so unique. And I think that was also when I was kind of in the process of wanting to change my major, and it wasn't until Algebra 101 that I really made the decision, because that was a whole thing of itself, and that was really the final nail in its coffin of changing my major, making the right decision that I wanted. So this is fall semester, my freshman year. I remember I had it after my final exam. This was really when everything went down. I remember I went to tutoring like twice a week. I practically was best friends with my tutor because I would go to her all the time. Every week I would meet with office hours with my professor. And I loved her. She was so nice and so thoughtful of teaching me what I was doing, because I thought it was just going to be like a review of how high school algebra was. And I guess it had been kind of a while since I had done that type of math before. And if you can tell by now, I'm not good at math at all. I can't do like anything with numbers. You can ask someone else like for their knowledge of math, but do not come to me to solve a problem. That is not something I'm very good at. So, and I recognized that during freshman year. So I was really persistent in trying to do my best during the fall semester, whether the outcome was good or bad. So it was throughout the fall semester, and I wasn't doing really well in the quizzes, and the final exam came, and I ended up not doing well in the exam either, practically almost failing it. And I remember the email from my professor being like, hey, do you want to meet with me sometime to talk about whether or not we need to like retake the class and have you withdraw the class and retake it. And I think it was within 2 or 3 weeks where I had to make the decision of if I had to retake the class with a different professor. And I remember being so panicked about if I had to retake it, I couldn't take it with her because she wasn't, like, it wouldn't fit my schedule. I had to find a different professor, and it was like at 8 a.m. and I was just all these different things that I was freaking out about on the process of retaking it. And if I even wanted to retake it, which that was also in my head of, should I even retake it? Was it the best thing for me for the future to retake this class? if it was going to benefit me in the long run. And that was the moment I kind of realized I needed to change my major, whether it was finding a different minor or changing my major completely. And my thought process going into it was not wanting to dread my career or my classes I would choose later on if I remained a marketing major, strictly a marketing major. I remember going into the registration office after my professor emailed me the forms, and I remember sitting down. I had the forms in front of me, and I was reading through, and I think by then I had actually gone back and forth with my professor on what I wanted to change it to. And I remember I was reading it had my new major, and then I would sign at the bottom, and I signed it at the bottom, and that was a done deal. I did it right then and there on like a random Wednesday at the end of finals week. That's the moment I'd switched to a strategic communications, PR, and advertising major. It is a mouthful, but I'm so grateful that I was able to change it when I did. I think if I had stayed any longer, I think I would have lost my mind with being a marketing major. And later on in my junior year last year, I did declare my 2 minors, which that took me a while, but I'm glad I did it. And it kind of put the puzzle pieces together on what I was looking for in terms of a career too, just because there's so many options. But my 2 minors are film and television and digital marketing. So that marketing piece does come in a little bit in terms of like marketing in the digital space, not necessarily like, Excel spreadsheets or like sales in that type of way. Yes, I do Excel spreadsheets, but it's not like my main thing that I do in those classes. And I really think that gave me the balance I needed in terms of my career, to broaden my options for my future career. I think changing my major and declaring my 2 minors, I really learned it's okay to pick and choose what you want during college. You have so many options that you don't need to limit yourself, and I really think that's what it was. I was limiting myself during freshman year in what I wanted to do for basically the rest of my college career, limiting what I was interested in and what excited me and was appealing to me. And that just happened to not be a marketing major specifically. And that balance, I feel like, I was able to be more creative, get my hands dirty with like having more projects to do, like this podcast, or just having fun with it. I think that's what I really have enjoyed with this major specifically, and also to just learn more about public relations. I remember in high school, I think it was my math teacher. It was my geometry teacher. I believe I was talking to her about like future careers, and we came onto the topic of public relations. And I just remember she asked what I wanted to do for a career and why I liked public relations and why I was going through sort of down that line. And I have always enjoyed how people think and kind of their thought process of how to pick a product, what they're interested in, and how you can market a product for people to buy. and what goes through a customer's thought process in terms of how it's going to value them, and why they want to purchase something. And I also just wanted to get in my film and TV minor to get experience in the film industry. I really love storytelling and content creation, if you can't tell from this podcast. So I just am really happy I changed my trajectory of my major and also my minors. And I remember in high school I was touring Boston College. My tour guide at the time said, and I think she was a junior at the time, she changed her major about 4 different times in the past 3 years that she was there. Me personally, I did feel a little bit limited, but also I wasn't really putting so much pressure on myself. Like I did know there was something else out there that I could try. Like I wasn't kind of just limited to whatever I came into my freshman year as. I could definitely change, and I did have that kind of mindset, even though it was difficult to see it right away. But I think it's so important to acknowledge your frustration, your confusion, kind of acknowledge like what your gut is telling you to do. If you're really considering changing your major or your minor or just your career path in general, I think it's really okay to be okay with it and to change. And I think change, especially in college, is really, really good and important in terms of your academics and your college experience as a whole, whether it's your social life or what you study, if your living situation or something like that. It's so important to change and to be okay with change, so you can grow as a person, and it'll really be beneficial down the line, because that's what this whole process of college is for, is to find out what you enjoy, what you're interested in, and what you really want to do for the next 4 years of college. And I would say my last piece of advice is to, like I said, trust your gut. Get a deeper understanding of what you are interested in, what excites you. And I think the most important thing that I really realized was like have something that you can clearly picture yourself doing, whether it's in the next 4 years or in your future career, or just like in terms of your hobbies, like what you're interested in that way. I think having a clear picture of what you want to do and like envisioning yourself doing it, I think it's so important, because that's what you're going to be doing basically for the rest of your career. Obviously you can change throughout. It's not a straight timeline of what you're going to be doing. In many cases, you don't do the same thing for the rest of your life, but it would just be nice to do something that genuinely interested you, and that's what I really look for in a career, in a major. And I'm so grateful that I changed it when I did, and I'm happy to be even doing this now and to be giving anyone who needs it this advice. And yeah, that's all for me today. I hope you enjoyed my little rant. I hope I wasn't too long. I hope this was a pretty short episode overall, but I will see you guys next week for another episode. It's gonna be a fun one, so I will see you then.